When I started writing about schmegs and relationships for a living, I knew that might mean that a man may never want to date me. I was okay with that. Like, I wasn't really okay with that. Like, it doesn't seem fair. But I didn't realize until just recently what a bold decision that was. Because when I started writing, I was like in the process of deconstructing all this purity culture crap, really stepping into my own as like a woman with a, schmegual. And I was like, I love this side of me. And I needed to write about it. I wanted to share it. I wanted to share it so that for women like myself who didn't even realize that you can be a total schlup bag and that doesn't change how much you should be respected. That in fact, I should be proud of that because men have been given schmegual agency and the ability to do whatever they want for I don't even know how long. Why shouldn't I be able to do what I want? Why shouldn't my pleasure be centered too? Why should I feel shame about the very thing that men get to do and be proud of? I was done with walks of shame. I only do walks of pride and like, hell yeah, that was awesome. So it's not that I just could, let go of like purity culture and all that stuff like that. But I just basically, I kind of almost created another person and did the fake it till you make it thing. I was like, I just want to do this and I'm just going to become this person who doesn't care. Because there were so many women, and this is why it's important that women talk about this, like women like myself, because I didn't even know this was an option until I met other women. And I was like, damn, look at her with all her confidence, owning her sexuality instead of like being afraid of it or using or like just playing games with it. She just stepped into it. I wanted that. Because, the fact that I was this like climber, I could climb big walls, hang off of pieces of metal this big and not be scared. I could travel I'm a little scared, but like within reason. I could travel all over in my truck, wherever I wanted to. A little bit afraid, but I was really smart about it. Never letting my fear of what other people think I should be doing stop me, right? Because everyone my age was like getting married and having babies. And I'm just like, but I really like doing this. How could I travel to South America by myself, meet friends, and go climbing in Patagonia? Like, how could I be someone so confident in the world that I would just show up anywhere and use my intuition and my smarts, and my survival mechanisms? How could I do all of that and just so boldly make decisions like doing this and this? I became a whitewater raft guide when I'd only been rafting like once. Obviously I went through a ton of training, but I was like, you know what? I think I'd be good at that. I'm going to do that. And I got the job and I trained really hard and I was really good at it. Like, what kind of crazy person does that? Me. What kind of person decides they're going to go work in the film industry? Okay, I was not in People's Court, but I worked on a set right next to it, so I took all these fun photos. Like, I'm the kind of person that literally is like, oh, you know what? I want to work in the film industry. So I'm just going to put myself out there and make it happen. And I did. I volunteered on set. I networked. I worked really hard to prove myself. And I worked myself up from being a PA to like props and set dressing pretty quick because I just trusted myself. I trusted that I knew that I'd figure it out. I love challenge. I love adventure. And before y'all think that I do have a lot of privilege. I have middle-class privilege, white privilege. I'm able-bodied, passport privilege. But I did not have a lot of money. I moved to New York City, and this was my first apartment. I wanted to move to New York, and I found a job with Outward Bound. They provided housing, which was literally a cubicle made of sheets. I found this plywood on the floor, or like on the ground. I got some sheets. There were 6 of us living in this room. I'm not suggesting people do like this, obviously. But what I'm saying is like my mattress was on the floor and half my body was under a staircase that led out to the roof. There was another guy sleeping in a tent on the roof. This was in Long Island City, right next to where the N train goes by, right by our office. So it does take... So don't just think that only people with a lot of money can challenge themselves and follow their dream. I love figuring out ways to make things happen that seem impossible. Was this uncomfortable? No. This was crazy. This was bonkers. I lived like this, I don't know, 9 months maybe. But that's how I worked for Outward Bound. And then that's where I got into comedy, right? I took improv classes every Sunday night at the Upright Citizens Brigade. And then I also started volunteering on film sets on my days off. And I was able to transition into comedy in the film industry because I lived like this. And then I moved to France not knowing a single person, which is also one of the dumbest things I've ever done. but it felt right. First I moved to Spain because it's hard to move to Europe if you don't have a lot of money. But I got a job as an auxiliary teaching English through the government, which gave me the visa, so you don't have to have like 30 grand in the bank account. And then from there, I figured it out. I ended up realizing I wanted to be, anyway, it's a long story. But this was right after a one-night stand. Down in Saint-Tropez. I was camping, by the way. You don't have to be a billionaire to go Saint-Tropez. I was literally camping, sleeping on a cot. But I had a Tinder hookup come pick me up, take me to his place, and we and then I was like, oh my God, look at these umbrellas, take a photo of me. And you can read about that in this thing I wrote for the Daily Beat. This is me. This is me owning my schmexuality in front of all y'all, knowing that I could get slut shamed, knowing that men especially hate women like this. I did it anyway. Now, that one I actually wrote after I was married, and Anthony loves that piece. Anthony doesn't care about body count. He loves my stories. He doesn't care. I wrote this one before I met Anthony. This one that I wrote about wanting to literally bang Jesus at the hot Jesus at the Jesus theme amusement park. This is one of my favorite pieces I've ever written. It's for the Daily Beast. I knew that if I was going to date, they'd have to be okay with this part of me. But I will never pretend to be someone that I'm not for a man. I'm done doing that. Anthony loves this story too. That cougar piece, wrote that before I met Anthony. You know, like if you Google Melanie Hamlet, probably one of the first things that comes up is cougar. Because I was not only in this article that I wrote for Glamour, but in 17 tabloids around the world, including the freaking Sun and the Daily Mail and all that garbage. But I don't care. And he doesn't care. This one about not letting men sleep over after I bang them, wrote that before I met Anthony. He likes this one too. Like, oh, and this one about my threesome, first threesome. Also wrote that before I met Anthony. There's a ton of other too. That's just a few examples. I knew that by following my dream and centering my writing career, means more to me, my writing and storyteller, that means more to me than any relationship with a dude, any theoretical relationship with a dude, right? Because that is what's so important to me. That's what gives me a sense of purpose, not in a capitalist kind of way, like, oh, my job gives me purpose. No, my storytelling. That's why I do this, y'all. People's stories have saved my life. They have changed the trajectory of my life because they showed me a new way. They showed me hope. They helped me be seen and heard. That has always been the most important thing to me. Doing this. So there was no way I was going to change who I am and what I do out of a fear of what men will think if they Google Melanie Hamlet. And I'm so proud of myself, especially now that I look back, because what I put on the line was a possibility of maybe being alone forever. Although we know women don't die alone. We're never alone. We know how to make community. We know how to make friendships that are fulfilling. But I would much rather go with, the same way I threw myself into all those other jobs before. I threw myself into my schmeg's life in terms of I'm going to start centering myself. I'm going to write about it. And I'm not going to let literally a theoretical relationship with some ghost of a man dictate what I do. So to answer your question, it may take a while to stop believing the lies that your brain tells you that we're all put there by someone else, by maybe your family, definitely society, maybe friends, definitely men, but keep listening to women who live the way you want to live. That's what I did. The women who had what I wanted, that I kept my eye on the ball. That's the life I want. Yes, it hurts to deconstruct all this stuff. No, these voices will never go away. I still find myself being like, but I don't believe them anymore. I just kind of laugh them off. It's like, okay, indoctrination, I see you, but I don't believe you. Please figure out the way you want to live your life. Yeah, and some people don't want to do what I did. That's fine too. But for me, it was really important because I grew up in purity culture, especially in the South. When I started to realize that all of these oppressive systems are tied to my purity, especially as a white woman. Even part of my anti-racism work is deconstructing purity culture because it's absolutely tied to white supremacy and anti-blackness especially. I'm so tired of all of these oppressive systems hinging on me hating myself, so then I go and behave the way they want me to. Nope. Free yourself. Free yourself. That's where it all starts. Because I'm a much better person in the world. I'm a much better person in my community. I can do a lot more good in the world if I don't hate myself like they want us to. Hope that helps. Also, look at this. Look where I'm staying this weekend. Ah!